Hello everyone, I'm back. And I've been working on a couple things simultaneously, so let me show you where I'm at, what I've gotten done. So the first thing is the front end for the C8 Bad Sport. Previously I had put guide coat on here, black gloss paint, and then I sanded it off. And the intent of a guide coat is when you sand it with a flat sander, all of the low spots will still keep the black paint or whatever color you use for your guide coat. They had powdered guide coat and I could have used primer. What it is I had this can sitting here. I either had to make a 2-hour trip to go get something or use what I had. And as I was actually walking out through the garage to go get something else like some primer, I saw this can of paint and primer in one and it was black, and I just went ahead and sprayed it on there. It worked fine. So you can see that there's still a couple of low spots, not very many. So didn't do a bad job with the fiberglass, getting it flat and smooth enough to use. This spot right here is lower, but it's also, there's a high spot right here. And so that needs to be lowered, so this will make it to where this spot isn't quite as low. I'll fix it when I come in the back side. What I've got to do now is this, I just tacked it in place essentially, sanded down, and you can see in some places I sanded to where there's actually a gap right here. It doesn't matter because now I'm going to come in from the back side, put fiberglass. I'm going to grind this edge all the way through here from the back side, and then I'm going to put fiberglass mat and fiberglass resin on the back side. The back side, I don't care what it looks like. Some people do, which I don't understand. Nobody's ever going to crawl into this car and see this, but some people are anal like that. This is the plastic that I used as a backing, so you can see the back of this is going to be very smooth and flat because it was against this plastic. And then this is the centerpiece that connects the two fenders. So I'm going to unscrew it. Only has a couple of screws holding it in place. Once I do that, I can get access to this back side, and I'll go ahead and, like I said, grind a notch all the way through here, a trough, fill it with fiberglass resin and fiberglass mat. Make sure it spans both sides sufficiently, and fiberglass that in place. Then I'll come back to the front side again, and again do the same thing from the front side. I will grind this notch all the way where these two pieces meet, and then I will fill that in so that it will be a solid piece when I'm finished. All right, that'll probably be a video in a day or two. The next thing I'm working on is the actual C2 Grand Sport Fender. The honest truth is they should not have sold this. It was in such bad shape. I mean, it's not horrible, it's fixable, but the number of hours required to fix stuff like this is just inexcusable. Anyway, that's my goal with my molds. I want them to where when it comes out of the mold, it's as close as you can get. Well, not as close as you can get, but close enough that it's not going to take an inordinate number of hours to fix what's there. This area right here, you can see right there, it went all the way through to the fiberglass. The gel coat had completely flaked off. So I went ahead and used some body filler, some fiberglass reinforced body filler, filled this in, and then sanded it down. So it's pretty much ready to go here. There was a notch there that I fixed. There's a tiny little spot right there. And then same thing here. There's a spot here. I'll probably just use the non-fiberglass filler, reinforced filler. For these small, where I've got spot putty, I've got all of this stuff that you need to fix things. All of the edges look like crap. I went in and fixed them. So I went in and rebuilt this whole edge initially to be a sharp 90-degree bend right here. And then I came in afterwards and I sanded that flat with a power sander, a DA sander. And then I came back in with a piece of sandpaper by hand and put the contour on this edge, a little bit of a radius, because 90-degree turns are very difficult to do. This whole area right here was the same as that area up there, that it was the gel coat had been chipped off because there was air between the two, between the gel coat and the fiberglass. So I went in and same thing, this is all fiberglass reinforced filler, so it's very solid. So I went ahead and fixed this entire edge right here. I didn't have to go to this level of detail because this is the bottom side. You'd have to crawl under the car to see this. Chances of somebody crawling under the car and seeing this is probably zero. The other thing is there's a spoiler that goes on here, and it's going to poke over this. So this whole area I didn't really even have to do because it's going to be covered by the spoiler, but it's just, as long as I'm doing it, I might as well do it right. There's still a lot of areas, like I said, they shouldn't have sold this thing. This whole area right here, this is what everything that you see that I did with body filler, this is what it looked like before I did the body filler. So I've got it to where it's fixed. There's areas right here where the gel coat is just so thin that you can see through it. There's a little bit of a texture right there, but some of that's also just being able to see through it. There's another spot. I could go through this whole thing, you know, and show you there's, I don't know, 20, 50 spots that need to be fixed on this thing. And this is just, I'm working on the bottom side. So here at this edge, I was hoping when I got to it, it didn't look bad at all. But again, once I started sanding and rubbed a piece of wood against it, all of these hidden air pockets started revealing themselves. This side was better than the other side, but it's still not very good. So my approach is that I want the body to be able to withstand anything that's going to happen in actual use. So I figured by rubbing a piece of wood against there, it's similar to like it getting an impact, which you would hope it never would. But if a piece of wood is going to break it open, then you know any minor impact in use is going to would also have broken it open. So anyway, I'm going to fix that. This is what it looks like right now, and like I said, in a day or two you will see what it looks like after I fix it. The top side's the same, just as many bad spots that all have to be fixed. All right, that's the second thing I'm working on. The third thing is I need a mold. Let's see, is it over here? Yeah, here's my mold. This is my mold I did, and I was experimenting with different mold release. This one I just used the mold release, and it didn't work so well. So this would have been a good mold to use, but it's in such shape that I decided it needs to be redone. Secondly, I already told my fiberglass guy I want him to make a mold, a real mold of this. This is not a real mold. This is just a splash mold. A real mold would be multi-piece so that you unbolt it to get the thing out. So I'm going to have him do that. Luckily, the nose section is good enough that I can make nose pieces off of this, but the rest of it, this fender and that fender, need help. So what I did was said, well, if I need fenders, why don't I make a separate fender mold? So that's what I have here. This is that blue fender that is not an accurate Grand Sport, but it's close. The thing that's not accurate is the Grand Sport doesn't have this piece that extends out in front. It's flat here and goes straight across. So this shouldn't even be there. The only reason I kept this was so that it gives me a location reference. I found out when I was trying to put the fenders on the front end over there, there was nothing giving me a location. You know, I could guess, but this would give me a more accurate reference between any parts that I put together. The other thing is that turn signal right there shouldn't be right there. On the Grand Sport, it is in a slightly different location. It doesn't stick out like this one does. It's actually sunken in to the grill area. But again, I figured, hey, I have this fender. I might as well go ahead and make a copy of it like it is. This one was damaged, so I just did it up to the edge of the damage. I ran out of the tooling gel coat, which is the orange stuff. The gray stuff is the standard gel coat. So instead of stopping and only doing the area that I had the tooling gel coat for, I went ahead and did the whole thing. So we'll see if that comes back to bite me later. Again, doesn't matter. All I really need is this area that you see that's orange is the actual fender flare. So all I really need to make parts off of is that. So I'll go in, and once it's still tacky, and in fact quite tacky. A storm moved through last night, so or was supposed to, so I got up at 4 o'clock this morning and covered everything up, cleaned everything up. I covered this with plastic right here because of course I didn't want it to get wet. Some of the areas aren't, well, they weren't as tacky. It seems that by being exposed to the humid air, it's actually getting tackier than it was when I had the plastic. When I first pulled the plastic off, some of this area seemed like it was 100% cured and not tacky at all, but now all of it seems to be getting tacky. Anyway, I'll cover it back again because there is rain predicted for later today. But yeah, that's kind of strange. I didn't know it would go back to tacky once it was that. This area right here was broken. Not sure if we can see it from under here. I patched it with some of that aluminum tape and actually had it aligned, but I had to move this thing a bunch of times as I was flipping it over and moving it to get to different areas. And apparently I knocked it out of alignment, decided I would do more damage trying to realign it. So I just left it. I can fix this. All this stuff can be fixed later. And again, it's outside of the critical area. In fact, it's, okay, it might be the area that doesn't even exist anymore. I don't know. I'd have to put it up against the actual front end and see where the two meet. But again, it doesn't really matter. All right, that's where I'm at. So this needs more time to cure. It should have already been cured, but like I said, it was cool and humid when I did this, and I purposely used the minimal amount of catalyst because this is a large area to cover, and I was doing it by myself, and I didn't want the resin to cure while I was still trying to put layers of fiberglass mat on. I probably underdid it a little bit, but again, it'll take care of itself. The other thing is, because I'm using a laminating resin, it could be sticky for a long time because it cures fully outside of exposure to air, and it was exposed to air. So what I did was, again, I covered it with plastic because rain was expected, and rain's still expected. I did find out through accident that the morning dew on one of my parts I left out, I didn't know it was going to dew so heavily, and the dew actually blocked the oxygen and actually caused it to harden. It had been tacky for days because, again, the laminating resin is made to where you can just put another coat of resin and fiberglass mat on top of it, or whatever you want to use, cloth. And so it stays tacky on purpose. And then when it's not exposed to air, the other one that what you can do is you can add wax to it, and then the wax rises to the surface, seals the surface, and that causes it to cure and harden and not be tacky anymore. But then if you want to put another layer on, you have to sand off that wax. Otherwise, the two don't actually stick together. I mean, it looks like they're stuck together, but they're actually not. And so if any impact happens, it separates at that because of the wax in between the layers. All right, that's what I have. As you can see, it's no clouds, but it is completely overcast today, and rain is predicted. And I have other things I need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and cover this back up. And I have to go get some more fiberglass resin, and then I have to go help Charlie work on his computer. He's having issues there. There's some areas here that still need to be fixed. Right here, I pushed this down more times than I can count. Sometimes the fiberglass just gets a mind of its own, and so I'll have to come back in and fix this, but you know, I can fix minor spots. Not a big deal. Yeah, there's something behind here. Anyway, so I'll come in with my trimmer, trim that edge, and then come back and probably use some body filler, square off this edge right here. And then I made sure I did a good job of getting these vents, because again, the other vents you saw had some issues in these areas. So I went ahead and made sure I got that covered well. This has 2 solid layers of fiberglass mat, which is what I'm aiming for. It's the minimum that is going to make it work. Some of these areas might not be 2 layers because I was kind of mixing and matching and going around. So that's the other reason I'm gonna cover this, is I will likely come back in and add another layer just to be safe. 1 layer is just not enough. So I'll come back in and do that. But again, no point in doing it today because of the weather, and I have other things that I have to do. All right, that's it for my update. Like, subscribe, hit the alert, hit the thanks if you want to donate. And if you don't like what I'm doing, you don't know jack. Bye.